Hi, I'm Ashley Cooley, a birth, baby, and sleep specialist and mom of 3. There's so much information out there, right? This show is dedicated to helping you clear out the noise so you can figure out what will work best for your baby and your family. If you're looking to learn more about your baby, gain more confidence in your parenting, and get as much sleep as you can through it all, you've come to the right place. Bringing Up Baby is about to get a little easier. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Bringing Up Baby podcast. My name is Ashley Cooley. I'm the owner of Birth Baby Sleep. And today we're talking about this fall time change that's coming up this weekend, Sunday, November 2nd, where most of us are going to experience a time change where we fall back. So we gain an hour on Sunday, November 2nd. There's going to be 25 hours in that day. And what does this mean for us? What does this mean for our little ones, our babies, our toddlers, our preschoolers? We're actually going to not only talk about what you can do to help your little one adjust, but we're also going to troubleshoot a couple of realistic potential scenarios here, depending on the age of your baby. These suggestions, while we can put these blanket statements out, for instance, my favorite suggestion for how to deal with this upcoming time change is to basically do nothing, and then come Sunday when you have that extra hour, we try to go with the flow as much as possible, stay on the new time as much as possible, and by Monday we're just kind of in that flow and not even looking back at all. But that doesn't fly with everyone, and depending on the circumstances of what everyone's up to this weekend, or how old your little one is, how many naps they get, all those things can have an impact. So let's talk about it, shall we? First things first, the best thing any of us can do to help us with our sleep-wake cycles and to help us with sleep in general is to use sunlight. Or lack thereof, of course. But the best thing, the number one thing when it comes to helping yourselves and your little one sleep is getting some morning sunlight upon waking. So when you actually want them to be up for the day. So what this means is when we go outside and get specific sunlight, even if it's dark and gray and cloudy, if the sun is technically up, it is still brighter than you can make it anywhere in your home, no matter how many lights you have on. So going outside, even just for 5 or 10 minutes, even if it's just sitting on your deck or your front step, or you have a little play, or maybe you have your coffee out there, or you're feeding baby out there. But the sooner you can get outside and in that sunlight, that is actually what's going to more quickly, more efficiently suppress melatonin, which is that sleep hormone. And you're setting yourself up for, okay, it's time to be awake, so that we can get the right amount of time awake to be able to sleep and sleep well the next night. So getting out for sun first thing in the morning is something that I recommend doing anytime, every day, if you can, but life happens, but especially when we're doing this time change. So come Sunday, November 2nd, if you can get outside first thing with your little one when the sun's coming up, or it's been up, and you're able to get some of that fresh air and sunlight, that's going to make a huge impact on their sleep the following night. Okay, so next, sometimes we do talk about preparing in advance. And even though that's not my number one suggestion, I do recommend it for some families because, for instance, we're all going to have this adjustment, adults included. Usually when there's a time change, there's increased risk for accidents. It's usually the spring one, but there could be an increased risk of depression and mental health issues, because sleep is such a huge part of our health and well-being, and it can affect those things. So I'm not saying your little one's going to become depressed or things are going to happen like that, but I'm just saying it affects everyone. And so if some families actually the time changes always happen on a Sunday, right? But who's to say that you can't make the time change in your home a little bit earlier? So for some families, especially if they have really little ones, or you don't have big plans this weekend. I know Halloween is on Friday night, but again, depending on the ages of your little ones, that may be good or bad. But so some families will actually sort of pretend or change the clocks in their homes on Friday night. And so you're kind of jumping into the new time on Friday or Saturday instead of Sunday, Monday, so that you're going to be that much more adjusted. So if you're really worried, maybe for yourself or maybe for your family or your little ones, maybe consider changing the time in your home a day or two earlier than was what actually is going on. Obviously, you'll need to do the math in your head if it's like, oh, what time is this store open till? And your time in your house is a little bit different. So maybe keep one clock or your watch on the right time, just so you know what everybody else is up to. But that actually might be a helpful way for you to go through that adjustment and to give yourself a little bit more time if you are finding that getting to work and going to daycare or doing all the things on Monday might be a struggle. So not that you would have to change everything like a whole hour, and so you add that hour on Friday, but maybe you add 15 or 20 minutes on Friday, and then you add another 15 or 20 minutes on Saturday. Then come Sunday, you're that much more ahead of the game. And so a little bit of prep in advance might be helpful. Or if not, come Saturday night for those older kiddos, they're maybe around or closer to a year of age, or the toddlers, sometimes just stretching that last wake window at the end of the day by up to a half an hour on Saturday can sometimes help them to quote unquote sleep in or get a little bit more sleep in the morning the next day. And then we're just that much closer to being on the new time. So that might be an option for some of you if you're intrigued by that option. It doesn't hurt to try it, but it just might depend on factors in your home. And so we're not just trying to make the sleep later, and just for the sake of what we're talking about here, we're pushing it later because we'll be adding an hour. So for instance, if your little one usually goes to bed at 7 p.m., you might shift it 15 or 20 minutes later. So now they're going to bed at 7:15, 7:20, and then the hope is that they tack on a little bit of that the next day. If your little one is still taking lots of naps, or say under 8 months of age or so, still very much relying on those wake windows, which we do rely on, but the younger your little one is, sometimes the harder it is to adjust this, because we don't just want to shift bedtime, we need to shift everything. That's what's really going to help their circadian rhythms adjust. It's not just shifting sleep, but shifting what time we eat dinner, shifting what time those feedings are at, shifting activities, those kinds of things, because that's how they tell time, and that's how their bodies figure things out, because they can't look at the clock, but it's more about what are the things going on around me? What are my parents doing? What are they getting ready? Are we doing this bedtime routine that I know we only do before sleep? So that's how they tend to pick up on things. So if you are planning to shift their time a little later, a day or two before the time change, feel free to do so, but try to also shift all other aspects of the day as well. In the grand scheme of things, like I said, when we first started out, I'm usually in the camp of don't worry about it. Maybe if your child or toddler is on the older side, that they can manage to stay up a little bit later, not a full hour later on Saturday night, but maybe by a half hour or so that they will be that much closer on Sunday. But other than that, what we're going to do is on Sunday, November 2nd, we're going to wake up, we're going to see the time, and we're going to say, that's what time it is today. And we're going to move forward with that information. So if your little one is under 6 months, I would like for you, if you need to, okay, you might not need to do this, but if the day is feeling extra long now, because we have an extra hour in there, if your little one's under 6 months, you may be able to squeeze in another nap. So I'd like for you to try to keep, their general wake windows more or less the same as the day goes on. But because we have an extra hour, you could have time to potentially get a fourth nap in there if they're on 3 naps a day. If they're already on 4 naps a day, maybe you can push that last nap just a little bit, again, like 15 minutes or so towards the end of the day, because we're just going to want to try to push that bedtime for them. This is all come Sunday, November 2nd. This is what we're talking about now. So if they're under 6 months and they're getting 3 naps, we may be able to squeeze in a 4th nap. But if they haven't been doing that, it can be a struggle sometimes, because it's still in their bodies and in their brains. It's getting close to the end of the day. We're approaching bedtime, so they might struggle to get that last nap. So do what you got to do to get it. Go for a walk, put them in the carrier, get them in the stroller, maybe go for a drive with a hot beverage for yourself, put on a podcast and drive around for a little bit, if that's what it takes, just to get a 20-30 minute nap in there to help them get to a quote unquote more reasonable bedtime come Sunday. So that's for the littles under 6 months, is a general guideline or suggestion that you might use. For littles that are between 6 and 8 or 9 months or so, you can try squeezing in a third nap. So if they're on 2 naps a day and haven't gotten that third in a little while, or they're in the camp of these nap transitions, Sunday's going to be the day where you're probably most likely going to be able to get an extra nap in there. So use that to your advantage. However, if they're, say, closer to 9 months and they have been on 2 naps for a little while, it may be a little dicey. Will you or won't you get that third nap even if you try? But with kiddos, say, closer to 8, 9 months, if that's the case, we can usually try to push that last wake window just a tad more to hopefully get a slightly later wake up time in the day. We don't want to push it too much because going to bed too overtired will mean that wake up time is going to stay the same or go earlier. So we just do a little inching in advance. So for littles that are under about 8 or 9 months of age, I would say that they usually adjust to this time changes pretty well. And no matter what you do, there's usually some kind of adjustment, right? Because we're all adjusting to this extra hour. But generally speaking, from under 8 or 9 months of age, I would say that you want to, any wake windows, I guess, that you're pushing, try to do so more at the end of the day. They're going to be more capable of doing it closer to the end of the day. And like I said, if you're able to even actually fit in an extra nap that they were maybe in transition out of or just recently dropped, this could be the day that they might actually get it. So for little ones over about 9 months of age, we're actually going to push the wake window in the morning instead of at the end of the day. So the reason for that is when littles are on 2 naps a day or even 1, we want there to be a shorter wake window at the end of the day when they're on 1 nap a day. And when they're on 2 naps, still between 9 and 14, 15 months or so, give or take, then the likelihood of them getting a third nap is pretty much not there. And so if we can help stretch their morning wake window, so before their first nap, we're helping their day get lined up a little bit easier. So what that means is, let's say if your little one all week long this week, let's say they're waking up between 6 and 6:30, and you usually give them their first nap. Let's say they're on 2 naps a day. You give them their first nap around 9. So their wake window typically for, let's just say your 9-month-old or something, or your 10-month-old, is 2.5 to 3 hours or so. So come Sunday, November 2nd, that 6 to 6:30 wake up will actually become more like 5 or 5:30 if they're on that same routine and everything from the night before. And so what you would actually do, number one, try to keep them in bed or in rooms or in some darkness and keep it in nighttime mode as close to 6 as you can, or at least a little bit longer, because if they're waking up before that, we don't want to encourage them to continue waking up before 6 o'clock. I'm sure you don't. If you do, go ahead. But if not, we want to actually get up and start the day when we want to get up and start the day. So if it's 5 o'clock actual time, but it's 6 o'clock in their bodies and their brains, they're going to be kind of ready to get up, but we want to try to slow it down, keep it dark and quiet if possible. Okay, I fully understand that it's not always possible, in which case you're going to hang out and do your thing, but then as soon as you can, get outside for that sunlight. But going back to our older babies, say between over 9 months of age, you're going to push that wake window. So instead of 2.5 to 3 hours before the first nap after Sunday, it might be more like 3 to 3.5. They're getting a stretch before that first nap, so they can get their first nap kind of around the time that they usually do. Try not to differentiate it by more than a half an hour. So they're going down as early as 8:30, even if they wake up at 5 or 5:30. That may be a stretch, yes, but it's all in the name of helping to line up the day's naps well so that they can stretch in the morning, but then they'll get their 3 hours or so in between naps, get their afternoon nap, and bedtime will be a breeze. All right, so let's just wrap this up, guys. In a nutshell, we're using the sunlight. We're going to get outside and get some sunlight for 5 or 10 minutes at least, just to help suppress that melatonin and get us set up for the day. For littles that are under about 8 or 9 months of age, you're going to want to try to push and extend the wake windows towards the end of the day if you feel necessary, and or trying to offer an additional nap, especially if they're in the nap transition right now. That'll probably work out pretty well. But we can always try. we can lead the horse to water. We can't make it drink, but that's what I would recommend. And for the ones that are over about 8 or 9 months of age, you're actually going to most likely stretch that morning wake window because they're on 2 naps a day. And that's going to help set them up for the rest of the day and going forward. So other than that, other than maybe shifting things 15 or 20 minutes earlier, Friday, Saturday, or maybe changing the time a little bit earlier so you're better adjusted by Monday, let's just all do our thing. Enjoy Halloween on Friday. Have a great day on Saturday and do your usual. Maybe you stretch bedtime a little bit, but again, I think for babies typically under 8 months or so, that stretching it in advance, it can make us do a bunch of work in advance, and then we still have to go through that adjustment after, So that's why I think it's just best to buckle up. We're in this together. Take a deep breath, get out for some sunlight on Sunday morning, stretch a wake window either at the end of the day or the beginning of the day, depending how old your little one is. And come Monday and Tuesday, we're on this new schedule, quote unquote, new schedule and time. And we'll be all thinking about Christmas. So I hope that helps. If you have any questions, you want to chat more, you need some support or help after the transition, after this time change, if, knock on wood, you need it, you know how to reach me. My email is ashley@birthbabysleep.ca. We're on Instagram. We have a website. We're around. You can find us, and hope you guys have a great week. If you're looking for more information or support along your parenting journey, check out birthbabysleep.ca. That's where you're going to find prenatal classes, postpartum and new baby resources, and sleep support during the childhood years. Lastly, but certainly not least, if you got something out of this episode or our show in general, leaving a rating or a quick review goes a really long way to helping others find us. So please consider leaving one. That's all for now. I'm Ashley Cooley, and we'll see you back here next time.